Grandma was the heart of her village, a woman whose presence brought peace and comfort to all who crossed her path. Her days were filled with the sounds of children's laughter as she told them tales by the fire, weaving wisdom into every story. She had spent her life sacrificing for her family, pouring every drop of energy into raising her son to become a man of dignity and honor. When the day came for him to marry, she embraced his bride with warmth, opening her arms as if she were her own daughter. To Grandma, the arrival of her daughter-in-law was not a loss but an addition, another soul to love, guide, and cherish. The house felt full, and her heart swelled with hope for the family's future. But time, as it often does, revealed the truth. The new bride, who once smiled sweetly, began to reveal another side, one of sharp words, cold eyes, and simmering resentment. At first, Grandma dismissed it as the difficulty of adjusting to a new home, but the small cruelties grew sharper. The woman began complaining about the food, criticizing Grandma's every action, and twisting innocent gestures into something malicious. Grandma held her tongue, believing patience would heal the tension. Yet, with each passing week, the atmosphere in her home shifted. What was once a sanctuary of warmth and love began to feel like a cage of tension and bitterness. And though her son remained dear to her, his blindness to the change cut her deeper than words could express. The cruelty deepened with every passing day. The daughter-in-law, emboldened by her husband's silence, began to treat Grandma not as a mother to be honored, but as a servant to be scorned. She withheld food, claiming there wasn't enough. She spread rumors to neighbors, whispering that Grandma was lazy and meddlesome. No effort was ever good enough. If Grandma cooked, it was too salty. If she cleaned, it was never spotless. The woman twisted every act of love into an offense. Neighbors began to notice Grandma's weary steps and the way her once bright eyes seemed dimmed by sorrow. But when they asked if she was all right, Grandma would simply smile faintly and say, "I am fine." Inside, however, she was not fine. She was crumbling. The walls of her home, once alive with laughter, now echoed with accusations and mockery. She prayed silently at night, asking for patience, begging for peace, and hoping that the woman she had embraced like a daughter might one day soften. But her prayers seemed unanswered, and every day she felt her dignity slipping further from her grasp. What had once been her safe haven had become a place of humiliation. In the silence of the night, Grandma's tears flowed freely. She wept quietly on her mat, pressing her face into the pillow so that no one could hear. Only the moon bore witness to her sorrow. She remembered days of joy, when her son as a little boy clung to her skirts and whispered his love. Where had that bond gone? How had the love of a son been buried so easily beneath the words of another? She prayed for strength to endure, for the courage not to lose herself in the face of such cruelty. But even as she endured, the cruelty worsened. The daughter-in-law's tongue grew sharper, her lies more daring. She began telling the villagers that Grandma was a witch, that she cursed her own family, that she was the reason misfortune visited the home. Some villagers pitied Grandma, but others pulled away, whispering in fear. Her isolation grew, and the weight of humiliation became unbearable. She lived in the same house, yet it felt as though she had no place there. The breaking point came one bitter morning. The daughter-in-law stood tall and told Grandma to leave the house, her own house, built from years of labor and sacrifice. Grandma trembled, shocked beyond words. Her son, standing nearby, did not speak. He did not defend her. His silence cut deeper than the daughter-in-law's words ever could. To be betrayed by one's own child, to see him turn his eyes away in her moment of need, was a wound no mother should endure. She staggered back, her heart breaking, yet even as her spirit bent, it did not shatter. Somewhere inside, a small ember of resilience glowed, hidden but alive. One evening, as Grandma sat alone beneath a tree, tears streaking her face, a young man approached. He was no stranger. He was a child she had once fed when his parents had nothing. Now grown, he looked upon her with compassion and concern. Seeing her so broken pained him deeply, and he could not remain silent. "Mama," he said softly, "tell me what has been done to you." Grandma hesitated, her voice trembling, but at last she opened her heart. She spoke of the cruelty, the lies, the humiliation. The young man listened, his fists clenched in anger, his eyes heavy with sorrow. "You are not alone," he told her firmly. "I will stand with you. Speak your truth. Let the world know." Hope, fragile but real, returned to Grandma's chest. For the first time in months, she felt heard. Her story, long buried under silence, had finally found an ear willing to listen. That night, she prayed again, but this time, not only for endurance. She prayed for courage. The seed of resistance had been planted, and it was beginning to grow. Days later, with her newfound courage, Grandma began to rise again. She no longer bowed her head when her daughter-in-law hurled insults. She no longer swallowed every lie in silence. Her words, though quiet, carried the weight of truth. The young man encouraged her, reminding her of the strength she had always carried. Slowly, she began to prepare herself for the moment she would face the entire village. She would no longer be silenced. When the day finally came, the air in the village was heavy with anticipation. The elders gathered beneath the great tree, their eyes wise and watchful. The villagers came too, drawn by whispers of conflict. At their center stood Grandma, her hands trembling but her spirit unbroken. At her side stood the young man, her witness, her strength. With a steady voice, she began to speak. She told of the cruelty she endured, the nights of hunger, the false accusations. She told of her daughter-in-law's lies, each one exposed like a wound. The truth poured from her like a river long dammed, unstoppable now that it had begun to flow. The daughter-in-law tried to interrupt, tried to twist the story, but her words faltered under the weight of Grandma's honesty. The elders listened intently, their eyes narrowing as they measured the truth. The villagers too began to murmur, recalling the kindness Grandma had shown them over the years. One by one, they remembered the meals she had shared, the wisdom she had given, the comfort she had offered. The lies began to crumble, and for the first time, the daughter-in-law's power weakened. The elders rose and spoke with authority. Justice, they declared, must be restored. The daughter-in-law's deceit was laid bare, her cruelty exposed. She would no longer be allowed to torment the woman who had given so much. Grandma's honor was to be restored, her dignity returned. Her son, faced with the undeniable truth, broke down in tears. He begged for forgiveness, but Grandma remained silent. Her silence was not bitterness, but strength. She had already forgiven in her heart, but the wound of betrayal was too deep to erase with words. From that day forward, Grandma walked tall again. She was no longer the frail figure hidden in the shadows, but a living testament to resilience. Children once more gathered around her, their eyes wide with wonder as she told her tales. But now, alongside the folktales of old, she told her own story. A story of pain endured, of injustice faced, of justice finally restored. Her story spread beyond the village, carried by those who had witnessed her triumph. No longer a victim, she had become a symbol of courage. Her tears had turned into strength, her scars into proof of survival. And so, her story lived on, inspiring others who face suffering to believe that no matter how long the night, truth will always rise with the morning sun. Grandma's triumph was not only hers, it belonged to all who believed in justice, in resilience, and in the unshakable power of truth.